Kalkadosh Bokerol Beki'im Halacha 6, Siman 161, Kuf Samech Aleph. We are on page 172, day 70. We are going to do Halacha Yod Chet 18. Okay, we're going to be talking about painters and other workers. So that's exactly what we were speaking about beforehand, about the beautiful painting, right? So it should also be Lilu Nishmat Harav Shalom Dov Ben Akiva Eliyahu Akiva. Okay, so he says like this. Yeah, he comes and he says like this. He says, laborers. We're talking about laborers such as house painters. Invariably have paint and or other substances on their hands all the time. So obviously we're not talking about a Dr. John Paul because he's a professional. The professional, usually you come, you see them, you never even realize that he's, that he's a painter. You understand? But here we're talking about laborers. What do I mean laborers? They're painting the house. So they come, they're going to paint you along the wall. Yeah? Huh? Yeah. So it says, yeah.
They call it the painter of Brocha Gorda, of the Ghost Bosch.
Like the big brush. Okay. So he says like this. Since it can be difficult or time-consuming to remove the substances completely, these people simply go about their entire day without bothering to clean these substances off their hands. This being the case, for these people, the paint or other substance on the hands does not constitute a hatzisa, even if it forms a layer on the skin. Meaning, even if it's going to be mamash a layer on the skin. For them, it's not a chatzitza. One second. Very good. So he says, likewise, yeah, they've got the gloves and these guys are, huh? They don't have gloves? In where? Bemet? He has to have gloves all the time. Bemet, he don't have. Okay. Likewise, a scribe. You know what a scribe is? What's a scribe? A lavlar. What's a lavlar? A sofer. So a scribe who spends hours each day writing tefillin or mezuzot on parchments or Torah scrolls is almost certain to have scribal ink staining his fingers. Since it's difficult to remove it completely, he's used to having the stained fingers, and the ink does not constitute a chatzitza, even if it forms a layer on the skin. Okay? This halacha applies as well to a shohet, mohel, butcher, mechanic, yeah, or other such professionals. Why? Because what we just mentioned. I guess we have a mechanic here as well. I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't know you were a jack of all trades. Yeah, however, he says, it applies, only, right, when the substance covers less than half of the minor portion of a person's hands, and he does not mind it remaining there permanently. If it covers more than half the surface area of the fingers, even these people must remove it in order to form the mitzvah netilat yadayim. In this case, even though he does not mind having the substance there permanently, it constitutes a chatzitza since it covers the majority of the fingers. You remember we mentioned yesterday, yesterday, the day before yesterday, you remember we spoke about that the real chatzitza doraita is rubo or makpid, majority, and you're makpid about it. If it's going to be the majority and you're not makpid, or it's going to be minority and you are makpid, that's the rabbanan. If it's going to be minority and you're not makpid, that was going to be okay. And even with that, many times lechatchila you're still supposed to remove, right, the chatzitza. That was especially to do with, women with mikveh and so on and so forth. Here, what happens is that's what he says. If it's going to be on the minority, so therefore it's going to be fine. But if it's going to be on the majority of the surface area, so now it's rubo. So even if it's rubo veno makpid, it's a chatzitza. So that's why, right, he says that it's going to be a chatzitza. Your person should be careful. Look at 125 on the bottom. The source for this ruling is Harav Zalman. Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch HaGraz. Yeah, cited in the Biur Halacha. Right? The Chaye Adam, however, ruled that regarding these workers, the substance does not constitute a chatzitza, even if it's on the entire surface. He says the Biur Halacha remarked that there does not appear to be a reliable source for such a leniency, but he offered some justification for it. Perhaps one could argue that Chachamim would permit this type of a chatzitza. Normally, if a substance covers the majority of the surface, we said that it's a chatzitza, even if it does not mind. So that people will not come to permit a case when the person does mind the remaining. In this case, no person in this profession would ever mind. So he says, alternatively, it is possible to suggest that for these professionals, the substance of the fingers is part of themselves, and it does not even begin to fit in the category of a hasisa. Yeah? So he says, despite these suggestions, the Biur Halacha concluded that the Chaye Adam's ruling, right, is his own invention. There is nothing in the writings of the Poskim to which, based upon, and therefore the Mishnah Berurah says, right, that basically, we don't have this. And that's the ruling of Kav Chaim. Meaning, they wanted to come and they wanted to say that even if it is on the majority, that's the Chaye Adam. Remember, Chaye Adam and Chokhmat Adam is the same person. Chaye Adam was on Orach Chaim, and the Chokhmat Adam is on Yeridea. Okay, so therefore the same rabbi with just two different books. So right, because we mentioned last night the Chokhmat Adam, so obviously it was on Yerdea, right? And today we're mentioning the Chayi Adam. So the Chayi Adam, and that's why Chayi Adam, the life of a human being. That's the Chayim, the Chayim, the day to day. Okay, so he comes and he says this: the Chayi Adam wanted to be lenient that for a painter or any of these professions, even if it's on the majority, you could be lenient, even if it's on the majority. But the Biur Lacha, which is the Mishnah Berurah, he argues and he said, "I apologize. We have the Rabbeinu Zalman, right? But it has to be in the minority, it cannot be in the majority." Now he says maybe the Svara, because he wanted to say maybe you want to justify the Chayadam, that the Pshat in the Chayadam is that what is the entire reason why, right? Rubo ve'enu makpid, you have to be machmid, is because maybe some people they aren't going to be makpid. Meaning, even if it's going to be the majority of the people, and this guy's not makpid, maybe some people are makpid. He says anybody in this trade or this profession will never be makpid. So maybe that's why you could be lenient, even if it's going to be on the majority. But then he says, but at the end of the day, it's not brought down in the poskim. So if it's not brought down in the poskim, you can't just invent kulot. You understand? You can't just invent leniencies. No, no. How's the parallel? That's a whole body, not the majority. It's the majority. It's not all.
So you're saying if the minority of the hands are dirty, then
minority of the hands are dirty, it's okay for the painter. Painter, mechanic, scribe, shochet, mohel. And remember, the surface of the hands, of the fingers. Surface, the fingers only.
If you see most mechanics, problem is right up with the fingernails because of the grease. I would think that if it's over there and it's a natural area, then it would be majority, it's okay. But if it would be somewhere else,
right, so that'll be the fingers. Right. There's a majority of the fingers. Remember, it's always the fingers. Right, we're talking about for the Tzilat today. Remember, yeah, fingers. Yeah, we saw that also as well. Okay, what about modern cleaning agents? Yeah, so you come and he says like this: modern cleaning agents. Number 19. Some poskim suggested that in our times, even the professionals listed in the previous halacha do care to clean their hands thoroughly of paint, ink, blood, or grease, staining them. In our times, we have cleaning agents that can remove these substances fairly easily. Yeah, there's tons of them. I forgot what it's called. There's even for paint, it's called the white. Yeah. And that's it.
You can't push your hand 10 times a day with it. It's aggressive.
Right, that means you have to be careful with it, obviously. He says changing.
Can do.
Yeah, no, it's like acid. Yeah. Changing the situation from what it once was. Even though he might not care to cleanse it thoroughly for his lunch break, or he just do so at them, meaning that even if they're going to do that, maybe they only do it once a day. Meaning when they finish the work, that's what. Imagine right now a mechanic, he's going to come, he's going to have lunch break, he's going to start doing it. You understand? Or the painter in the middle, he's not going to do it. At the end of the day, maybe. Maybe he would do it, but not beforehand. Therefore, he must remove the substance from his hands, performing Netilat Yadayim, even during his lunch break. If a tiny amount of the substance remains on his hands, even after a thorough cleansing, then he usually leaves it. So therefore, it's not going to be considered a chatzitza. What about a dye that penetrates the skin? Dyes that penetrate the skin and does not form a layer of surface is not a chatzitza at all. You remember what we spoke this about? Tattoo, but more. Henna. You remember, because there it's a dye, but it's not a substance, meaning there's nothing there. It's just a dye. So he says over here, whether it is on the hands of a professional who uses such a dye or someone else, the fact that one's hands are discolored or dyed does not mean that it's a chatzitza for them. For example, if someone applied an iodine to a wound and it colors the skin around it, it does not constitute a chatzitza, since it doesn't form a layer on the skin surface. Likewise, a pen ink is not a chatzitza. So your pen broke, and all of a sudden you got ink all over your hands. It's not a chatzitza. It's only ink. It's not real. It's not paint. It's not a substance. It's ink. Ink is nothing. So look in 126, sticky stirrups. He says over here like this: the Pisketcher will rule that if someone's fingers are sticky with sugar or honey, it's a chatzitza, even if it's going to be a small area. This is considered a case where a person does not want the substance to remain there permanently. He said the testimony of the Chazon Ish that after reciting Kiddush or Shabbat, he would wash his hands from the drops of wine that spilled on them before doing Netilat Yadayim, since the wine sometimes became sticky on the fingers. You understand? Which one? The glue. So hand cream. 1 second. The response to Shevet Keati ruled that if someone's hands are greasy, he may not perform Netilat Yadayim. He qualified this ruling, however, stating that this applies only if there's tangible grease on the fingers. If the grease is absorbed into the skin, it's no longer constitutes a chatzitza. Based on this ruling, he ruled that any thick cream on the hands constitute a chatzitza, making it impossible to perform netilat yadayim. One might argue, though, that a hand cream that has a purpose of beautifying the skin should not be considered chatzitza whatsoever. If this is so, then even if a thick layer of the hand cream is on the entire hand, it would not constitute a chatzitza. Based on the rule that any substance used for beautifying does not constitute a chatzitza. On the other hand, it may be that this rule applies only if the person wants it to remain there permanently, whereas no one would want a layer of hand cream covering his skin permanently. This matter needs more research, and in practice, one should clean any such cream off his hands before doing the netilat yadayim. So netilat yadayim for Suda, you should clean it off beforehand. Okay?